Hi, I'm in my car and I thought I'd take you on a little trip. However, our journey begins 37 years ago, right before I was about to give birth to my first son. Now, I'd been told I would never be able to have children and underwent a number of all sorts of medical tests when I found out I was pregnant. So, this led to a heightened state of anxiety as well as, excitement. I was about to give birth, but I was scared to death as to how his health, the quality of his health would be when he arrived. Shortly after his birth, it wasn't hard to see that it wasn't hard to determine that he was not a cuddly baby. Every time I went to go touch him, he would just freeze up. He'd become extremely rigid. Although babies, they wake up during the night, he never managed to get into a really good sleep pattern. He struggled with sleep for many, many years. He also had a big challenge with textures to the degree where he still doesn't like to finger paint. Now, by the time he reached 5 years of age, he was in kindergarten and his teachers were concerned about his performance and requested my permission to test him. And I gave it, and ultimately the results came back. And what I'm about to tell you is not meant to be derogatory. It is, in fact, the label that he was given. And I say this because when I shared this on Facebook blurred it, blocked it. They didn't want me to say it. So this is not meant to be a derogatory statement. This is what they were saying 30 years ago. He was classified as mentally retarded as well as learning disabled. Now, we were in the state of New Mexico at that time, and I do understand that autism has been being diagnosed and spectrum disorders have been being diagnosed for a long time. But New Mexico really didn't have the wherewithal to be able to test these kids. I mean, up until just a few years ago, with a number of moms that I was supporting, they were only finding out that their kiddos were on the spectrum at the ages of 7 and 9. And we've, at that point, really have advanced into further behavioral issues, not because the children are problematic, not because they are disabled, but it has everything to do with the world around them, polarizing them, separating them, and creating anxiety within our own kids. Needless to say, by the time my son reached the 9th grade, he was really struggling with this. I really worked with him to really get a hold of the fact that this wasn't a gift that he had been given. That he was aware enough to know that there were differences, but yet he had the ability to communicate with others and almost teach others, lead others to see his neurodiversity, his processing system as beneficial to our world. Now, I say that because at one point we did take him in for visual therapy, and that is something that the doctor actually said to me, was that his brain processes things differently. Yet he still remained in the classification of special needs. He was in special needs inclusion classes his entire school career, and he was considered disabled to the degree where he started receiving benefits. But at the same time, as I said, I don't see this as a disability. I see this as an exceptional ability. Okay? But nevertheless, I lost tremendous amounts of sleep, just like you do, when we wonder if our kids are going to be able to be safe in the world and be themselves in the world without fearing what's going to come back at them, fearing the backlash. And unfortunately for all of us, there's a tremendous amount of backlash just for expressing our thoughts. So what makes our neurodiverse children think that they're any safer? They're not at this point. So as an advocate for neurodiversity, I work with people like yourself to actually help our kids step into and own their greatness. My son today works with autistic high school students. He went and got a college degree and is working in a high school in Austin, Texas, supporting autistic high school students. Now, isn't that awesome? There's no telling where he's going to go with this. Does he still struggle? Oh, you better believe it, because the coworkers around him sometimes give him a hard time, and his processing is a little bit, it hears things differently. So I work with him. I don't have to, but I work with him because ultimately, as his parent, as his advocate, I want his future to be as self-sufficient and stable as possible. I want him to have the tools. And so it's an ongoing process because we take them from infancy, right? And even as adults, we work with this. So this is what I have to offer for you. So please comment below with any questions that you have or concerns. Share your number one thing that keeps you up at night. What is the number one thing? And maybe it's the fact that your child doesn't sleep. That could be very well. It doesn't have to be anything big. Just let me know. And if you don't want to answer in the comments below, I do have a link in my bio that just says that. What's the number one struggle? What's the one thing that keeps you up at night? Click that link and watch that little video and answer that. You can respond directly to me via video, text, or audio, however you prefer. And give me your details. What is the number one thing that keeps you up at night? I'd love to hear from you. Why? Because I want to bring you valuable content that will support the evolution of your child to be and express that special message that they have for this world. See you on the other side.